Thank you very much, Secretary General of the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat. As has been intimated by Dame Meg Taylor and also the Deputy Vice Chancellor of the University of the South Pacific, we are indeed quite privileged to have here with us our guest speaker, His Excellency, Mr. Roberto Azevedo. I'd now like to request him to come and present the public lecture for this afternoon.
Well, thank you very much. Well, Dame Meg Taylor, Professor Armstrong, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to everyone, and hello to those who are watching online, so thanks for tuning in. I don't know where they are, but wherever. I'm very pleased to be here today at the University of the South Pacific, and thank you very much for your kind invitation, and by the way, congratulations then on the 50 years as the leading academic institution in the Pacific. And I think that this institution embodies the close cooperation, unique challenges and opportunities that exist here in the Pacific. It is jointly owned by 12 governments and has a diverse student base from all across the region. So this is actually my first visit to Fiji and to the Pacific Islands as WTO Director General. In fact, as in any capacity, this is my visit to Fiji, so it is a real pleasure to join you. I think that there is a very special link between this region and the World Trade Organization, and I think it is because of the strong bonds that exist between the countries of the region and the important role of the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat. And I have often found myself that it is precisely the smaller nations that are more outward facing than others and more engaged with the world outside their borders. Countries that are not great powers, they rely more on the global system of cooperation and rules to ensure precisely that they have a fair go. And of course, smaller economies desperately need access to other markets in order to grow and develop. Now, the WTO provides all this. It provides a platform for you to engage in the global economy under multilaterally agreed rules, and it provides also an opportunity for you to pursue your interests. And that is what you do. Precisely. Working together, the Pacific Islands have become important players in the debate at the WTO over the years. You have used the global system to address your needs, and I will detail some of the areas where real progress has been made in a moment. I'll get there, but of course there is much more to do, so I urge all of you to remain active and engaged. With a very strong and united stance and sharing many common interests, you do really have a voice in Geneva. And your representatives there do a very excellent job in making this voice heard. In fact, when I talked about smaller economies just a moment ago, perhaps I should have chosen my words more carefully, because according to some estimates, the members of the Pacific Island Forum cover over 40 million square kilometers of land and sea. So that is bigger than the European Union and ASEAN combined. Now, this offers, of course, great potential in terms of access to natural resources. And at the same time, of course, it also poses challenges of distance, of vulnerability, and to natural disasters for once. So again, I think that your desire to meet these opportunities and challenges stands behind your record as champions of international cooperation and multilateralism. Now, we all know that the hard work of the Pacific Island nations was essential in securing the Paris Climate Agreement in 2015. And Fiji, of course, played a very key role in presiding over COP23 in Bonn just last year. The Pacific Island countries are also a driving force behind the Oceans Conference in New York that happened just last year. And it focused on the implementation of Sustainable Development Goal 14 on the conservation and sustainable use of the oceans and marine resources for sustainable development. Now, the simple fact is that we are better placed to deal with the challenges before us, and these are global challenges, when we work together. Now, with your leadership, advocacy, those things are particularly important today. These are challenging times for multilateralism. I don't think I have to tell you that. All you have to do is take a look at the newspapers. And this applies on a number of fronts. And I will focus now particularly on what we're seeing in the trading system. So when I say challenges for multilateralism, I'm not only talking about trade, I'm talking about multilateralism in general. Now, we have all seen recent headlines about rising tensions among major trading partners. Now, despite these tensions, trade is actually performing very well, and it continues to help to drive the global economic recovery. Now, trade grew at a rate of 4.7% last year. That was the strongest performance since 2011. And 2011, it was rebounding from the dip after 2008. And we do expect that this growth is going to continue for the next 2 years, for this year, maybe next year. And we see now the economic cycles between China, the United States, and the European Union synchronizing in a way that we have not seen for a decade. So this is good news. All of this is good news. It means that trade is playing its part in supporting growth, development, and job creation. However, and there is always a however, all of this could be put in jeopardy if the tensions that we have been seeing continue to escalate. Now, the global economy is profoundly interconnected today, and this multiplies the complication that trade restrictive actions can cause. So today, two-thirds of world trade occurs through global value chains. That means that at least one component of a product has crossed the border when it is being traded. Now, in this context of interconnectivity, the effects of any shocks to the trading system would likely be globalized, and it will be reaching far beyond those countries that are directly involved in those tensions. The Pacific region is unlikely to be immune to all of this, so we have to do everything we can to stop this from further escalation. And I have been working closely with WTO members and urging them to take every action possible to avoid going down this road. Instead of escalating tensions, what we do need to have is we need to find ways to resolve these tensions in a constructive manner. And the WTO has a key role to play here. The organization was in fact created as a forum for members to find ways to cooperate and resolve issues and hold each other to account. And this is what we have been doing for quite some time now. And in fact, I would argue that without the WTO, we would have started a trade war some years ago. Now, after the crisis of 2008, and this is very striking, we did not see the kind of outbreak of protectionist policies as we did in the past, and as people were expecting at that point in time. Because, and if that had happened, that could have dramatically worsened the economic fallout. However, the reality is that the share of world imports that are covered by import restrictive measures that were adopted since 2008 until today, so from 2008 until today, that percentage is just 5% only 5% of global trade has been affected by trade restrictive measures since 2008. Now, this quite contained reaction to the post-2008 protectionist pressures, and they did exist, is precisely because of the framework of rules and practices provided by the multilateral trading system, provided by the WTO. So we need, clearly, to safeguard the system so that it can keep playing this role and so that it can keep supporting growth and development around the world. But just preserving the system is not enough. And I think that's the point. We have also to ensure that it helps to provide more opportunities, especially for those who need these opportunities the most. Now, ensuring that everyone has the skills and tools that they need to participate is an essential part of creating a trading system that is truly global and that is truly inclusive. And for this very reason, we put a very special focus to the trade conditions of the small island developing economies through our work program on small economies in the WTO. And this has delivered some pretty important decisions in the favor of countries like the Pacific Islands. And we have a number of initiatives to help countries build trading capacities. We do that through the WTO's Aid for Trade initiative. We provide developing countries with targeted assistance to improve their trading infrastructure. Since 2006, the initiative has committed around $4.1 billion to Pacific Island economies. We also support an initiative called the Enhanced Integrated Framework, and this one helps least developed countries to build their capacity to trade. The EIF, that's the Enhanced Integrated Framework, it has developed a number of projects in the Pacific helping countries leverage their trading potential. For example, Vanuatu has been helped in rebuilding its tourism infrastructure in the aftermath of Cyclone Pam. And on all of these fronts, we work very closely with the Geneva missions of the Pacific Island Forum's Secretariat to ensure precisely that these initiatives are focused and that they deliver to the actual needs of the country. So, I should note also that a number of Pacific members, namely Fiji, Solomon Islands, and Vanuatu, they have also opened missions in Geneva. And I'm hopeful that the others will follow in due course. Greater engagement in Geneva gives the chance to learn more about the WTO and to help to shape the trading system in your favor. Now, members are making progress in this direction by delivering new reforms to the system. You hear sometimes people say that the WTO has been paralyzed or hasn't been functioning. That's misinformation. We have done quite a bit. In recent years, we have delivered a number of very meaningful agreements. In 2013, in Bali, we delivered the Trade Facilitation Agreement. Now, it was the biggest multilateral deal in a generation, and it will have huge economic significance, potentially cutting trade costs globally by an average of 14.3%, with the biggest gains going for developing and least developed countries, including here in the Pacific. And these measures are particularly significant when your trade costs are already high, due to the great distances that your importers and exporters have to deal with. Fiji, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, they all have already ratified this deal, and I am encouraging the other WTO members of the Pacific Islands to do the same as quickly as possible. So I was talking about 2013. In 2015, so 2 years later, in Nairobi, Kenya, members came together to deliver the biggest farm reform since the creation of the WTO, with the decision to abolish and completely eliminate agricultural export subsidies. Now, members have also agreed on a number of steps on cotton, and measures to help the poorest countries to boost their trading potential. So all of this shows that the WTO's 164 members, they can work together in a meaningful way in trying to solve the most complex problems that they face and deliver, of course, on the priorities of the most vulnerable. The latest stage of this journey was our ministerial conference in Buenos Aires last year, and that was in December last. So at that conference, we did not conclude final agreements there, but members laid down some very positive foundations that we are now trying to build on. Levels of political support were very high in Buenos Aires, and members committed to continuing negotiations in all areas, and that's written in the summary of the chair, including the Doha issues. And this is very important. And ministers also took an important decision on fisheries subsidies, which I know is a key area of interest for this region. While we didn't get the ambitious outcomes that many were hoping for in Buenos Aires, including myself, of course, it was a very significant step forward. Members committed to adopt an agreement on disciplines that prohibit certain forms of fisheries subsidies that contribute to overcapacity and overfishing, and to eliminate subsidies that contribute to illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. Now, this is a key target of the Sustainable Development Goal 14 on the conservation and sustainable use of our oceans. Now, clearly, the oceans are a tremendous resource, but they must be used responsibly and sustainably so that the blue economy can continue to serve future generations. But I don't think I need to tell you that. According to the World Bank, a more sustainable fisheries economy could boost public revenues in the Pacific Islands by $300 million per year by 2040, and it could create 15,000 additional jobs. So this is a huge opportunity, and I think that our work at the WTO can make an important contribution to achieve these goals. Members have agreed in Geneva, they are meeting, they have agreed already on a work program for fisheries subsidies negotiations for the coming months. Meetings already started last week in Geneva, so let's make sure that we deliver on this very vital issue. Also, in Buenos Aires, groups of WTO members announced new initiatives in a number of areas that they find important. So they are now talking about how to help promote electronic commerce for inclusiveness, how to support smaller businesses to trade so that they are not crowded out by the bigger players, how to facilitate investments, and also how to ensure that trade contributes fully to the economic empowerment of women. So there have been meetings under each of these initiatives that I just mentioned in the recent months, and in each case there seems to be real momentum. It is very positive that members are seeking to use the WTO to tackle matters that they consider to be of pressing economic importance. And it is interesting to look at the composition of these new groups, because they encompass developed countries, developing countries, least developed countries from all regions. So, of course, each member of the WTO will have to determine for themselves whether and how to engage in these areas. Now, that said, I think that there could be interesting opportunities for the Pacific Islands here. Studies show, and this is just an illustration, that improved internet connectivity in the Pacific Islands could add more than $5 billion to the region's GDP and close to 300,000 additional jobs by 2040. So more investment, particularly in infrastructure, could also help the region to tackle many of its trade costs and boost the Pacific's integration into the global economy. We know that building a resilient infrastructure is a priority in the Pacific, especially due to the ever-present risk of natural disasters. The economic costs of such events are very high, to say nothing about the human cost itself. Some estimates show that these disasters can hit GDP by 0.5 to 6.6% annually. That's huge. And climate change will only increase the level of risk and vulnerability. Rigorous studies suggest that the frequency and the severity of natural disasters are likely to increase. So this issue is not going away. So we need to be better prepared and better informed the next time we are called upon to respond. And in this vein, the WTO members have started already a dialogue very recently in Geneva on how trade policies and practices can help in dealing with natural disasters. The wrong measure could stifle recovery, erode resilience, and restrain development. But the right policy can help improve supply-side capacity and restore trade after a disaster, boosting recovery. So we have to get this right, and we have to contribute in any way we can. To help inform this discussion, just last month, we launched a new research project to help countries analyze how trade can help them respond to and recover from natural disasters and build resilience to such events. It is a very important piece of work. I am confident that the trade community can play a positive role in responding to this very urgent issue, and I'm ready to support the WTO members in this effort. So the WTO is here to serve members. It is here to serve you. And I want to see the WTO helping this region to meet the big challenges ahead, whether it's meeting the urgent imperative of development or delivering improved resilience and recovery from natural disasters. And I want to do all we can to help you seize some of the big opportunities on the horizons too. So whether it's boosting tourism, creating a framework for more sustainable fisheries, or realizing the benefits of improved internet access and connectivity, that's our job. But to deliver, we also need your support, especially at a time when multilateralism is under strain. So I do urge all countries in the region to use the system and speak up for the system and for your interests in the system. Global cooperation is a precious resource. So it is the only way that we will meet the challenges before us and seize the opportunities. It is the only way to deliver the kind of future that I believe that people in this region want and deserve. So I'm really looking forward to working with you all to that end, and who knows, hope to see you in Geneva at some point in time. So thank you all very much. Again, it's a great pleasure to be here.